Yeah. X gon' give it to you. Wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out from stainless steel.
Greetings, fellow geeks of the internet, and welcome to Ramblings, an unrepented geeking podcast. As always, I am your host, Sean Cronenfeld, and at last we're back. We are resuming regular service. Things are going back to whatever the hell passes for normal around here. I'm done complaining about the job. I'm done complaining about other things. I'm done making excuses. Let's just do this. We've got a bunch of things to cover, a lot of ground. It's superhero time again around here, which is the best time as far as I'm concerned. And so with that in mind, let's get down to brass tacks and begin with a review of the big superhero movie, the first big superhero movie of 2016, but oh my god, not the last. Yes, it's Deadpool o'clock. Oh yeah. So, if you've been living under a rock, you might not realize that earlier this week, as of this recording, basically yesterday, or Thursday night technically, the long-delayed, we're talking by over a decade or more, theatrical premiere of the Merc with a Mouth, Deadpool, at last arrived. Oh, yeah, Flights of Angels and all that, although of course angels probably don't want much to do with good old Wade Wilson, the mercenary who's willing to kill you with a smile, even while he never, ever shuts up. So, not to get too hipster on all you, but I was a Deadpool fan before it was cool. No, really. I was a Deadpool fan, God, going all the way back to the 90s. So here's the thing. If you don't know, Deadpool is a Marvel character who's become very, very ubiquitous in the last decade or so. But once upon a time, back when he made his debut in 1991, February 91, appropriately enough, so he arrived in comics the same month he's arriving in theaters, full circle, he started out as basically a clone of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. I mean, really, his costume looked like it, because, he was designed by the ever-creative Rob Liefeld, i.e. if you watch Linkara, you're probably simply shocked to hear that that Rob Liefeld designed a character that looked like somebody else? No! But yeah, he did, and he gave him a backstory of basically being a healing assassin/mercenary, and the writer at the time he was working with, Fabian Nicieza, was like, well, this is basically Deathstroke from Teen Titans. But, Nicieza went along with it, and gave him the real name of Wade Wilson as an inside joke, and in his early appearances, Deadpool was basically a bit like Spider-Man meets Wolverine. He was a guy who could heal constantly, he would always wisecrack, but he could also take absolutely ridiculous levels of damage. I mean, truly, you could, at one point in an early appearance, he got cut up into little pieces and mailed back in a small cardboard box to his boss, and he healed from that, okay? So he had, he was a walking Looney Tune character, basically, and he was largely written that way. And then, because it was the 90s, he got his own miniseries in 1993, and that's when I first became familiar with the character. I bought that miniseries, all 4 issues of it. It was written by Fabian Nicieza and thankfully not drawn by Rob Liefeld. Instead, it was drawn by Joe Madureira. This was back before, he was still early in his career, and it was a good read. It was fun. It for the first time, there was an actual attempt by none other, by no less than one of his co-creators to actually give good old Wade a little bit more depth, a little bit more shading, to make him more than just a one-note, one-joke character. And it worked really well. If you've never read The Circle Chase, it's a fun read. Basically, it's Deadpool and a whole bunch of other disposable mercenaries all going after this great treasure, while a woman from Wade's past gets into the way, and this was the series that introduced Weasel, who would go on to become a major supporting character in the, I guess you'd call it Deadpool mythos. And yeah, from that point on, I was friggin' sold. And then he got a second self-titled miniseries in 94, written by Mark Waid, all worship his name, and penciled by Ian Churchill, and it was just great. It was great. And while neither series was a huge financial success, both did well enough to, in 1997, finally give the character his ongoing. And this is where the Deadpool we all have come to know and love really got his start. Look, the climax of the first Deadpool miniseries basically has the great treasure turning out to be this android who can go around, who decides it's going to end war, and it's wiping out a bunch of the mercenaries who are still left, and basically, Wade, for the first time, uses his blood to save the life of the woman he loved, Vanessa, who by this point was revealed to be a mercenary herself, a shape-shifting mutant, and she and Wade had this whole history, and it's a good read, and you know, she was apparently dead, but he used his blood to give her some of his healing factor, comic book logic, comic book science, to show that he could be more than just self-obsessed about himself. And this was an angle that Joe Kelly picked up on and really ran with. And he was also, Wade had this backstory of, you know, he was, by this point had been established, he was this survivor of Weapon X, because of course, you know, the responsibility for all crazy failed super soldiers, one way or another in the Marvel Universe, Weapon X, and that, you know, he had gotten a healing factor to, you know, save him from cancer, but in the process, it didn't cure him of cancer, it just kept him from dying. And so his entire body became one giant cancer cell, hence the why he looks the way he looks. And what Joe Kelly picked up on was the fact that when you get past the wisecracks, the jokes, the occasional fourth wall breaking, because at the time that was not a major part of the character. It was there, but it was only one part of of the character. It was not nearly as much at the forefront. But he realized what a really tragic figure, in a lot of ways, that Deadpool was. And so he decided to do a comedy because, you know, obviously Deadpool, you want to make, you know, he wanted to keep the comedy because the idea of making Deadpool the star of his own series is ludicrous. But he also wanted to go a little deeper, and he wanted to make fun of the cosmic aspects of the comic book world, but he also wanted to make fun of the anti-hero phrase, and he also wanted to dig deep into Deadpool. And over the course of his run, basically, he made him more complex. Deadpool, like I said, early on was a fairly one-note joke. And without this run from Joe Kelly, I genuinely believe the character would not have become as popular as he was. Now, this book was not necessarily a huge hit. Indeed, he was originally told it was going to be canceled with issue 25. So he started working towards doing all that, wrapping up most of the storylines, and then he was told they got more issues. And this stretched out for quite a while until eventually, finally unable to take the pressure of constantly being told he was going to be canceled, only to find out he wasn't going to be canceled, Kelly left the book with issue 33, but not before doing, 33 issues, a number of annuals, and a couple of other odds and ends here, there. But more importantly, he fleshed out a lot of Deadpool, both as a character, in terms of his personality, and also in terms of his history. He gave Deadpool a supporting cast. He developed the ones he already had, adding both villains and heroes antagonist and allies would be a better way to put it, for him to go up against, and he really stuck with the idea. One of the overriding themes of Kelly's run on Deadpool was, he's a guy who wanted to be better. He started, from the very first issue where basically he jumps into a nuclear reactor to stop it from exploding and wiping out half of Canada, but in the process, severely weakens his healing factor, because Kelly rightly decided, well, a guy who can take that, can be chopped up into millions of pieces and put in a cardboard box and heal from that, there's just no drama on that. So he still could heal, but not nearly to that level anymore. He wanted to dial back a bit on the cartoon character aspect. Not that there wouldn't still be lots of jokes and humor. Point is, Deadpool is a mercenary who wants to be more. And part of it is because he is insane. And he's just insane, but he's insane, but on some level, he knows it. And so, part of what Kelly did was he played up the tragedy of Deadpool being insane, and he also played up the scariness of this. That underneath the jokes, there is something frightening and disturbing about Wade Wilson. One of the major characters, and she shows up in the movie, that got introduced in Kelly's run, was a woman named Blind Al. She was, appropriately enough, blind. And Deadpool kept her at his home, and he didn't let her out. And Kelly built up slowly to what was the story behind Blind Owl, as it turned out that Deadpool was keeping her prisoner against her will. And eventually this climaxed around the end of the first year of the book, where after a really bad day, Deadpool comes home to find Blind Owl and his best friend Weasel together. And he had forbidden Blind Owl from ever contacting anybody, and he forbid Weasel from ever finding out about his life. And, from time to time, Deadpool had shown slightly, like a moment of potential violence here or there, but never gone all the way. In this issue, he goes all the way. He knocks them both out violently and then locks them up in a room. It turns out he's kept all this time an automated torture room that he used to basically break Blind Owl's will and give her a kind of Stockholm syndrome. And it's a really upsetting moment, and it's a really upsetting reveal. And he goes on to then go fight a guy he wasn't supposed to fight, his archenemy T-Ray, and it all ends badly for Wade, and that's the end of the first year. And I loved it. To me, that was what really cemented the genius, especially because this followed very shortly after Deadpool issue 11, which, if you've never read, is this genius. Basically, Joe Kelly decided to Forrest Gump Deadpool into a fairly random issue of Spider-Man from way back. We're talking basically a random issue where he fights Kraven the Hunter. And by what I mean Forrest Gumping is, they took, artist Pete Woods took the original art from that issue. And I think it was for an issue from in the 60s. It was, Peter was in college, and, it was when he was dating, he was Mary Jane had been introduced in the book, but Gwen was still around. He was bouncing back and forth between them. And Blind Owl and Deadpool accidentally end up back in time through really convoluted reasons. And so, at this time, Deadpool had an image inducer, which is basically a holographic device. So he disguised himself as Peter, while Blind Owl disguises herself as Aunt May. And it just goes brilliantly from there. Deadpool issue 11 is one of my all-time favorite of comics, because it is just so relentlessly funny. Because the way they they take the original art and they draw over parts of it, and the way they draw in new things, and the way that they highlight, and this was also an issue, for instance, with Norman Osborn in it, so of course they make fun of the hair, and you have Deadpool replacing Spidey, and just the whole thing just works so perfectly. It was so much fun. It was this big 64-page, just giant love letter to Spider-Man and Deadpool and to the characters in general, to Marvel and to comics. And then he follows that up with this incredibly dark reveal. Just when following on from these moments where it seems like Wade is finally on the verge of truly becoming an actual hero, a human being, he pulls back the curtain and shows us what a son of a bitch he really is. And that was Joe Kelly's Deadpool run in a nutshell. It was kind of like, this is going to sound weird, it was kind of like the way people talk about, for instance, Adventure Time, or even Steven Universe, although obviously a lot less kid-friendly than Steven Universe, in the sense that it was very funny, and it didn't take itself seriously, but it would also regularly bring in, as you would say, feelings. It would induce feelings in you with, like, a hammer blow. And time again throughout those 33 issues and the reveal, I don't really want to say too much about it more about, because I've already gone 10 minutes on this, but I consider Joe Kelly's run on Deadpool the best run of Deadpool ever. I consider it the definitive run. Nothing that's come since has ever topped it. Although I will, to be fair, the current book with Duggan, with Gary Duggan, is doing with Brian Posehn and Gary Duggan, is coming very close. Very, very close. It's been a really good run. It's the one that, to me, more than any other sense, really captures that essence of what made Kelly's run so great. I don't love everything about it, and I don't think it's quite as good, but it's certainly a million miles better than the dreck that was Daniel Way's run. I know Daniel Way is the writer who came on when Deadpool really got big, and I guess you could argue he's the one who made Deadpool big, though I always felt like he was in the right place at the right time. But his take on Deadpool was the worst take on the character. It was all cheap jokes, empty cynicism, pointless nihilism. It wasn't good. And it certainly wasn't a pimple on the ass of Kelly's run. So, as you can tell, I'm a really passionate Deadpool fan. And I'm a passionate Deadpool from way back. Again, this is not me trying to be hipster. I got nothing against newcomers to Deadpool. I'm just trying to give you guys some understanding of where I'm coming from. I love this character. I think he's such a great character because, first of all, he can be really simple and funny on the surface, so you can tell really funny, silly short stories with him and just do wild, crazy stuff. But once you dig beneath it, he's incredibly tragic, and he's this flawed individual, and he's messed up, and it just makes him fascinating what you could do with him. He's like the best characters. He's incredibly flexible, and you could do all sorts of different stories with him. And that is Deadpool. And yet, I mean, certainly, when the book was struggling in the 90s just to stay around and was getting canceled again and again and again, I never seriously thought we would get a Deadpool movie. And then when superhero movies started to get big, but then we got Wolverine's origin, I was like, oh God, well, that's it. We'll never get a Deadpool movie. And it's a shame, because Ryan Reynolds is probably one of the only people on this planet more passionate about Deadpool than I am. I'll cop to it. I'll grant you that. And, yeah, I thought he was perfect casting for Deadpool, but he was in that misbegotten movie, and I do not blame it on him. You cannot blame, Ryan Reynolds on Wolverine Origins. You can't blame Green Lantern on him either. And FYI, just a quick aside, I'm really, really tired of all the attacks on Green Lantern. No, the Green Lantern movie is not a great movie. It's arguably not even a particularly good one. It's somewhat mediocre. But in terms of superhero movies, somewhat mediocre is miles better than some of the shit we've gotten. I guess you could argue, I do sometimes say that mediocre is worse than bad, because at least bad can be entertaining. But I don't think Green Lantern is it. I think Green Lantern's got problems, but I think there are moments in it that really work and are fun and entertaining. I just think it kind of rushes through things a bit more. What they really should have done was basically spent the whole first movie on Oa and doing crazy space action, because the best parts of the movie are the crazy space action. It's the stuff on Earth that's a bit more dull and rote, and yet, the effects hold up pretty well. And look, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the same kind of instant, ooh. I mean, people love to talk about Iron Man, and it wasn't as good as the original Iron Man, but it wasn't that far from it either. Because you go back and you watch Iron Man now, and what really stands out are the performances, but the actual finale for Iron Man is very blah. And, once you get into the big climax, it's very much as bland as the big climax from Green Lantern, only it's not saddled with an even stupider final villain. I mean, Parallax can work, but not the way they did him. And the point is, I wish things had gone better, because I do think with a second, that post-credit scene, fuck that post-credit scene in Green Lantern, but I think with a second movie, they could have, I think they were starting to find their way, and it's certainly, I prefer it, at least trying to have a bit more fun with it than what we got with Man of Steel. And that's my only reference to Man of Steel. I'm not going to drag that out again. So, yeah, Green Lantern was what it was. Let's finally get down to what we're really here to talk about, the Deadpool movie. The thing that I never thought I would actually see. When they leaked, and, there's still, debate over, was the footage really leaked? Was it a test by Fox? Was it something that somebody, now some people are saying that it was actually Ryan Reynolds who did leak it against Fox's opinion, but it all worked out. And, well, at this time, I'm recording this, Friday evening, well, actually now technically Saturday morning at 2:01 a.m., and at this point, it looks like Deadpool may have a really huge opening, far bigger than what was expected, and far bigger for an R-rated superhero movie. And this is very much an R-rated superhero movie, as we're going to get into. And so it looks like all of that may have finally paid off, financially at least. But what about it critically? What does someone like me, a die-hard, long-time Deadpool fan, think of the movie? Well, I think it's a lot like the hero himself. If you want to call him a hero. He certainly doesn't want you to. Flawed, a bit ugly at times, but overall, a hell of a lot of fun to watch do its thing. Yeah, I loved the Deadpool movie. I did think, like I said, it has some issues, and I'm going to address those. But overall, considering how this could have gone, what we've got is something, frankly, of a miracle. I think a big part of why the Deadpool movie works is because it's very careful to modulate its ambitions. This is not a movie where there's a whole lot at stake in terms of the fate of the world, or much of a movie with a plot if it comes to that. By which I mean Deadpool consists of 2 big fight scenes, a flashback sequence, and a few connective bits and bobs to pull everything together. This is not a very complicated movie. Deadpool kills some people. We see why Deadpool is Deadpool. Deadpool kills some more people. We finish up seeing why Deadpool is Deadpool. And then in the climax, get Deadpool, guess what? kill some people. Straightforward, simple, not trying to, I don't know, use a jetpack before they can ride a bicycle, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, then I guess maybe Deadpool's rubbing off on me. Yeah, especially for the first Deadpool movie, because the way things are going, it looks like we're definitely going to get more. Keeping it simple and straightforward feels like the right way to go, as does keeping it R-rated. Now look, I'm not one of those people who gets too bent out of shape when something's PG-13 versus R. I genuinely feel if the only way your movie can work is if people say some curse words and there's a bunch of gratuitous blood, then your movie doesn't actually work. You're just making cheap, disposable nonsense. And, there's a place for cheap, disposable nonsense. But I feel like Deadpool as a character is capable of a bit more of that. And clearly the producers and director and writer of this movie agree with me because that's what they've produced. Which is not to say Deadpool isn't irreverent, because it is, and is not to say it isn't profane, because it is, and is not to say that it doesn't break the fourth wall and make constant jokes and take the piss on superheroes in general and just basically go from one shocking scene to another. But there is more to it than just that. Most people think the worst appearance of Deadpool ever is, of course, in Wolverine Origins. Technically, they're right, except that what we get at the end of that movie is such a misbegotten mistake. I don't even consider it Deadpool. It's Ryan Reynolds in really bad makeup playing a weird, made-up character. That ain't Deadpool in the same way that, the 2000s Godzilla, American Godzilla, ain't Godzilla. Officially, even. So, in that case, I think the worst, out-of-comics appearance by Deadpool has to be his more recent one in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Now, if you regularly follow my stuff, you know how I feel about that cartoon in general, and it ain't good. And I think the Deadpool appearance is the absolute bottom of the barrel for a show that itself continues, season after season, struggles to find anything worthwhile to do with the character, which it's gotten better, I guess, from the early seasons, but that's because it couldn't have gotten much worse, and it's still not very good, and the Deadpool episode brought out the absolute worst instincts in that show, because already, as it is normally, Ultimate Spider-Man is all about Peter narrating things and breaking the fourth wall and doing lots of unnecessary stuff that really hurts the show as an overall, because, we're making it for the kiddies and we can't go too dark or too complex. We gotta constantly have Peter interject and make some jokes so the kids don't get upset or bored because they're like attention span of 30 seconds. And when you're already starting out with that and then you throw in Deadpool, who already also has those tendencies, it just exaggerates everything to the nth degree, and there is none of the complexity or interesting aspects that makes Deadpool a great character. Instead, all it is just one big reference, fourth wall breaking joke. And FYI, writers, just making a reference is not a joke. That should be obvious, but judging by what passes for comedy in a number of TV shows and movies today, I guess it isn't. And my fears for the Deadpool movie is that we get something like that only made even worse because now it'd be R-rated, so we'd get all that self-indulgence with a lot of gratuitous, pointless blood and tits and ass. And there's nothing wrong with blood in the right place and time, and there's nothing wrong with sexiness. I do have a real problem with TNA for its own sake. I think I don't want to go too off onto this, although it is relevant to the movie's biggest weaknesses. But thankfully, what we got in the Deadpool movie isn't that. What we got wasn't one long joke at the expense of the audience and the character. It's one long joke where we laugh with the characters and not just at them. A great example of this is Colossus. If you don't know, Colossus is in this movie, and he is one of the all-time classic X-Men. He's the big, giant Russian metal guy. And, he does not just have a small cameo. No, he has a substantial role. He is a legitimate, full-on supporting character. He has more screen time than, he has quite a bit of screen time. And certainly the movie the movie positions him as a counter to Deadpool. He represents the traditional superhero in a way that we haven't ever seen, I think, even in an X-Men movie before. He's more of a traditional X-Men than we've ever seen in an X-Men movie. So that's kind of fun and funny, but really he's the do-gooder, he's the heart of gold, he's the earnest farm boy that he should be. Comics, pay attention, Marvel, this is how you do Colossus. Sorry, little bit of... they've been going angsty with Colossus for the last, God, it feels forever, 5 years, I think, in the comics, just making him more and more of an angsty character, and I'm not saying, he should just be happy-go-lucky, but it really gets away from what makes the character interesting, and this movie gets it, and the thing is, it does like to mock Colossus. It does like to take the piss out of his heroics. There's a great bit near the end, which was, it's just, you can see the joke coming, but that doesn't make it any less funnier when it happens. But it also loves Colossus. Because for all that Colossus is the butt of the joke at times, he's also still legitimately badass. He's still awesome. And you get why he's awesome. He's a big, super strong metal guy. And he gets to cut loose near the end of the movie. And it is glorious. Colossus is entirely CGI in this movie. And he's massive as a result. He really feels like Colossus in a way that we've never seen before in a live-action film, and it was just such a great part. He's only a small part of this film, but you can really tell that the people involved, as much as they're having fun with all this, as much as they're not being too serious, they do still respect the characters and the world. This isn't so divorced from the larger X-Men universe. I mean, since it's set now, quote-unquote, and the movies right now are in the past, and all that, I mean, it is technically. But I mean, what I'm saying is if 5 years from now we see how this movie connects to the larger X-Men continuity, the rebooted continuity, I don't think it'll be that hard to fit it in. This is just the darker, more violent side of the X-Men world. And also the sillier side, which is appropriate. And what I say about Colossus goes even more so for Deadpool. Because there is a heart here. He is not just a relentless joke machine. A big part of the movie is his origin. And we spend a great deal of time with Wade before he becomes Deadpool. And the heart of the movie, the raw, bleeding, undying heart of the movie, is the relationship between Wade and Vanessa. The romance between them and how it changes Wade and how it sets him on the path to becoming Deadpool, and then she gets captured, and we'll get to her in a minute. But yeah, the feel, the emotions he feels towards her, the love he feels towards her, and the way that it makes him actually want to be, the way it gives him something to live on for. Don't kid yourself. Without the romance between these two characters, this movie doesn't work. Without the romance, it's just empty calories. It's just pointless action for the sake of action. And yes, that sounds fun, and yes, it can be fun in the moment, but it quickly gets old. A great example of this, in my opinion, is the 2007 film Shoot 'Em Up, that starred Clive Owen and Paul Giamatti, and if you don't remember it, I don't blame you. It was a movie that was just basically an excuse to have a bunch of ridiculous action scenes, and little more than that, and, it was amusing at the moment, people liked it, but it also was a box office failure. It had a budget of $39 million, it made only $26.8 million. Most people don't remember it, and even those who did see it, it goes in one ear, out the other, because it's all just meaningless action. The best action films usually have something more. They either are so ridiculously, incredibly, visually done that you just can't forget about. But even then, they have something more. The best action movies have at least some sort of character to them. Some sort of, something that makes them distinct. Something that gives them at least, if not heart, then personality. Distinct would be the key word, okay? And I was worried we'd get another shoot 'em up with Deadpool. Something that was all just violence. And there's a lot of violence in this. But the romance in it gives it more. It gives it a spine. It gives Wade the character he needs. It gives him a journey to go on. It gives the film something to hang on that's more than just empty jokes. And, this movie treats so much as a joke, but the one thing it doesn't treat as a joke is the romance between Wade and Vanessa. Which isn't to say it doesn't have fun with it. Their relationship is clearly built a lot on a very healthy sex life, and the creators of the film have a lot of fun with that, and I like it because it is shown to be a healthy sex life. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with sex. There's more to their relationship than just that, at least on Wade's side. Getting to that. But yeah, the movie has a lot of fun with that, and it makes them it makes them adorable. It makes them lovable. It makes them, I don't want to say relatable because they aren't relatable, but it makes them, it gives Wade a character you can grab onto. It makes him more than just an empty stand-in, little more than the Marine in Doom, or generic protagonists in Shoot 'Em Up 2006,500. I don't know. Point is, the romance is the key to this movie, and it plays it just right. When I was in the theater, I didn't see people getting bored during it. I didn't see people checking, people were invested in it because it was played funny. It was played just right. It was still filthy and ridiculous, but it wasn't treated as a joke. And it all climaxes. I don't want to spoil things, but the way the movie pays it off in the end, it would have been very easy to go with the obvious joke. A nasty little cynical sting that makes the whole thing, a bit of nihilism du jour. And thankfully they didn't go with that. They didn't go that way. They took it as seriously at the end as they took it in the beginning, and it really works. And in between, they threw in beheadings and explosions and dick jokes galore and lots of naked Ryan Reynolds and just glorious. They gave us Deadpool. And so what I'm basically saying is this is a really funny, fun movie, but it isn't the greatest superhero movie ever made. Like, I see some people a little high on what they've gotten saying. It's not... I don't even know if I'd put it in the top 10. I'd have to really think about that. I certainly wouldn't put it in the top 5. It is an amazing accomplishment. They've made a Deadpool movie that is true to the character, and they've made it without having to compromise things, and that is impressive. But there are still problems, and I think the biggest problem is Vanessa. In the first part of the movie, especially during the flashbacks, she feels like a real person. But as the flashbacks go on and things go bad, and especially in the present day of the movie, she's completely underwritten. She has no real personality. She has no real character. She has no, she gets one moment during the climax. And it's a cool moment, but it does not make up for how empty she is and how much she is just there to be the girl to be rescued by Wade. And it's a really disappointing, especially because she's based off of, I told you earlier, that a big part of the first Deadpool miniseries was his relationship with Vanessa, aka Copycat, who is a shape-shifting mutant. Well, in this, Vanessa is just Vanessa. She never shows herself. If she is a mutant with shape-shifting powers, it never comes up, and it's a real missed opportunity. In this, they pick up on the backstory she's so thinly sketched, what she's really doing anymore is unclear. She's introduced sort of as a prostitute at the beginning of the movie, but then that aspect of the character drops away, and indeed, when we see her in present day, she's just working at a strip bar, but she's not actually a stripper herself, apparently, and it's all kind of confused, and that's what I'm talking about when I say she's underwritten. What I would have done, I would have made her a mercenary like she is in the comic, and that's how she and Wade meet. And there's so much more you could have done with that, and I would have just making her much more active participant in the finale. It's a missed opportunity. I also think that I know the movie's going for irreverent, but part of that, there are issues of sexism in the movie. There's just no other way around it. The way they treat her in the later half, the whole bit with the strip club. I know this is my own bias because I despise strip clubs because I just think they're so fucking sleazy, and I've never understood the appeal of them. And I'm not going to go into that too much. And I don't want to take. You can fine. I'm going to get complaints. Oh, social justice warrior, yada yada yada. Like I said, look, make it clear. I'm still saying you should see this movie. I'm still saying it's a good movie, even a great movie, but it's got some flaws. And I'd be doing myself as a critic a disservice if I didn't point them out. And I think while it tries to balance this out by giving us Megasonic teenage... basically, in the movie, Deadpool teams up with two X-Men. One who's Colossus, and the other is basically... she's a very obscure X-Men character, but I think she's going to be a real breakout after this. She's looks like your standard goth chick. She's got, this great shaved head look to her, and she basically explodes as a power, and the movie does a lot with it. She's not a very well-developed character, and that's fine, because she's a supporting player. It's fine that she doesn't get a lot. She's there partially to be a visual joke, partially there to be a deus ex machina, and partially there just to be a cool character. And she does that great, and I've got no problems with that. But when you throw in the fact that she's cool, but in and of herself, she doesn't balance out all the other issues. And I also know, yes, the chief henchman in this film is a woman, and it's Gina Carano, who's great. She's really great in this. And it really shows it is a shame she's not gotten, her own Schwarzenegger-style career. She's not a great actor, but you know what? You know who else wasn't a great actor? Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger. What he had was a physical presence that made him incredibly compelling to watch, and she is exactly the same way. Her big fight with Colossus is outstanding, and you really believe this is someone who would go toe-to-toe with, an 8-foot-tall metal man. And, she just has this constant menace in the film. She doesn't say a lot, but when she does speak, it's genuinely gold. And I love it. It's not an accident. I think that, while the movie doesn't go too far, minor spoilers, it certainly seems to imply she survives through the ending, and I would be shocked if she doesn't come back in some form or another. Let's rehabilitate her, make her into a, reluctant, ally Deadpool next time or whatever. I don't care. I just want to see more of her, and I want to see Gina Carano in more movies because I really think she does have that ephemeral action star quality. Fine, she's probably never going to be a great dramatic artist, but she's got a physical presence that would make her a brilliant, unbelievable action star, and I hope the apparent success of Deadpool means she gets to continue and do more stuff like this because she's just great in this. But the presence of her and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, that's her name, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, it helps balance things out. But there are still issues, and I can see why some people may be bothered by that. All I could say is, yes, I acknowledge it, but I also still think, despite that, the movie overcomes it, and I do think that Deadpool is a great movie, or it's a great Deadpool movie, and just a fun action comedy romp with a bit of heart. Just enough to make it not feel empty and pointless. I've seen it once. Chances are good I'm going to try and see it again in theaters. I may do a double feature with it and Kung Fu Panda 3, because I want to see both of those movies again, and I know that sounds like a really weird double feature, but in case you haven't noticed, I'm a weird guy. Anyways, I heartily recommend you see Deadpool as long as you're not too squeamish. I mean, the blood and the guts and the gore, it's fairly cartoony in nature. It's nothing too extreme. If you go see if you really just sit through your standard R-rated action movie, you shouldn't have too much trouble. But yeah, it's certainly, look, Fox and the creators of Deadpool, even, through Deadpool's voice himself, have gone out of their ways to say, this is not a kid's movie. And yeah, this is not a kid-friendly movie at all. If you're a parent and you're wondering if your kid should see this, the answer is probably no. Even if they're Deadpool fans. At the very least, you should see it first without them. You should see it first without them and then you judge. I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kids. I'm not going to judge you. But this is one of those movies you need to probably wait until at least they're, 14 or 15. I really do feel that way. This is not a movie for young kids. It's violent. It's dark. It's nasty. In a good way. It's deliberately nasty, but it's, it definitely taps a bit into that filth, by design. And so I don't think it's a superhero movie, but it's a superhero movie for adults. And it's good to see that. I would not want everything to become like this, but, I say adult in figure quotes. This is not this is a mature movie in the infantile way. But you know what? It's also a good change of pace. And I really don't think we could have gotten a Dead movie. It's coming out right at the perfect time. We couldn't have gotten a Deadpool movie earlier than this. I don't think it would have worked. I don't think, because at its core, this is still a superhero movie, It follows all the beats and the tropes. We even get to see, even right down to how, Deadpool going through different stages of costumes until he gets to the point where he is. I mean, this is very much a classic superhero film. It's just kind of at the same time, it's also a comedy. I wouldn't even say it's a parody. I've heard some people describe this as a parody. No, this is not Airplane. This is, there are fourth wall breaking jokes, but that's part of Deadpool's nature. And Deadpool is the only one doing it. It's not like everybody's looking at the camera, nudging and winking, which is also another good thing about this film. It fits in. Deadpool should be the crazy one. Everybody else should be a different kind of crazy, if you like, but they shouldn't all be making fourth wall jokes and references. It's okay for Weasel and for Blind Al, his two sidekicks, basically, to make occasional jokes, but Deadpool should be the only one breaking the fourth wall. And he does in a number of good ways. They don't overdo it at the same time. They hit just the right note. So, this is a superhero film. It's just one turned on its side, and as a result, it's for adults. Certainly don't take young kids to it. I think that would be a mistake. At the end of the day, if you're a parent, that's your choice, your call. Good on you. But I wouldn't recommend it. But I do recommend anybody there who is 18 or older, absolutely go see Deadpool. It's a heck of a lot of fun. It's not perfect, but considering how wrong it could have gone, considering how bad this could have been, considering it could have been a joke played on us, the audience, instead of just a fun time, I'm amazed. I really am amazed. We got something this good, and something this fun, and something this true to both Deadpool and Marvel in general. And actually, by the way, pay attention. There's a number of really clever nods to the Marvel Cinematic Universe during the finale. Pay real close attention to where the big fight is taking place. I don't think that's an accident. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, absolutely, go see Deadpool. You will not regret it. Alright, so that's Deadpool out of the way, and now let's move on in this episode all about superheroes and actually talk about a comic book. I know, talking about a comic book on a superhero show. A novel concept. But yeah, let's talk about Spider-Man #1. For those of you not in the know, this was a book that came out last week, February 3rd, 2016 to be exact, and it is the grand entrance of none other than Miles Morales, the former Ultimate Spider-Man, into the mainline Marvel Universe. It is written by the guy who created Miles and also wrote every issue of Ultimate Spider-Man and its various relaunches. Basically, Brian Michael Bendis, he wrote Ultimate Spider-Man starting in October 2000 and going all the way through October 2013. 13 years. In Western comics, that's pretty crazy. He introduced us to Ultimate Peter Parker, then killed him off and introduced him to his replacement, Ultimate Miles Morales, or just Miles Morales. And Miles has been something of a hit, and with good reason. He's this wonderful character. If you don't know, yes, as he's derogatorily known, he's the Black Spider-Man, though he's actually a bit more complex than that. Thank you very much. Miles is actually Black Hispanic descent, which means, some of you out there are maybe not you, I'm hoping nobody in my audience, but certain people out there really hate him because of that. And basically, he became the only thing really worth a damn in the Ultimate Universe, or at least his corner of it. Let me be more exact, because he had a really fun supporting cast. But yes, his book, his corner of the Ultimate Universe really was the only thing worth a damn in it. Many years before the end, frankly. And with the Ultimate Universe finally, mercifully no more, he has been folded in as a result of Secret Wars into the mainline, Marvel Universe. And we've seen him hanging out with the Avengers and hanging out with some of his fellow Avengers in both Uncanny Avengers, no, not Uncanny Avengers, one of the Avenger books. I can't keep up with them all. What do you think I am? Some kind of machine? I don't know. Stop judging me. I'm doing my best. Okay, seriously though. He's hanging out with the Avengers. He's been showing up in Miss Marvel and Nova. And, it's a really fun, he while Peter has gone all corporate and international and boring and dumb and Iron Man only not as interesting. And yeah, I am not thrilled with the current direction of Peter Parker in the Marvel Universe. And this is not me hating on Dan Slott, though I do think he needs to leave the book because he's been on it way too fucking long. And I realize he's been on it much less time than Brian Michael Bendis has been on Ultimate, but the difference is, as this issue proves, Brian Michael Bendis still knows how to write Spider-Man. He still clearly has lots of stories left to write. Dan Slott doesn't if he's doing a poor man's Iron Man riff, and really the stupider parts of Iron Man, but that's a review for another day. Let's refocus. Miles Morales is now part of the Marvel Universe, and a lot of people have been wondering, what does this mean for him? How much does he remember? The end of Secret Wars seemed to imply one thing, but what's been going on in the mainline universe seems to imply another, and it's all been... I think a lot of people have been waiting with bated breath for the first issue of Spider-Man to finally get this answers, and in this issue, we don't get those answers at all. And I love it. This is... don't get me wrong, this is very deliberate on Bendis' part. This isn't an accident. Brian Michael Bendis, you say what you will. I think he's a very good writer. Actually, just for something else I'm doing, I recently reread his entire Avengers run. His entire long, sprawling Avengers run. And while it had some problems, especially near the end, damn if at times it wasn't great, and damn if it doesn't remind me, for a guy who's accused of only being able to write one character just split out among their voices, when he needs to, he really can give characters unique voices. When he needs to write Thor in Asgard, he can give Thor in Asgard its own feel that is distinct from everything else. He can be a very good writer, but I think his best work is unquestionably on solo books, and Spider-Man helps highlight that. Basically, what I think Bendis is doing with the first issue is he's working under the assumption, because the numbers for Ultimate Spider-Man by the end in the Ultimate Universe of Jerry were terrible, that there's a good chance that people who have never read Miles, and are only at best vaguely familiar, if at all, with him, might be trying out the first issue of his new comic now that's set in the Marvel Universe and it, quote-unquote, counts. They might be getting their first introduction to him. And so instead of loading the book down with a lot of continuity explanations that honestly aren't that important in the larger scheme of things, I mean, he's part of it now. That's what really matters. Aspects of his supporting cast remain, most likely his relationships with the Ultimate versions of certain characters who have mainline versions, who are very different. Looking at you, Kitty Pryde. Looking at you, Ultimate Jessica Drew. Sadly, she's probably gone. Yeah, that's all done with fine. But he's still more or less Miles. And it's clear he still remembers something happened. But in this first issue, what Brian Michael Bendis does is lay out the argument for why Miles Morales can still work as a character even in the mainline Marvel Universe. And what his role can be is, he is what people claim they always want, is the young Spider-Man who's in school and still dealing with everyday life and struggling and just having all sorts of problems. In other words, he's the classic Spider-Man, which is, in a world with a classic Spider-Man, well, Peter graduated from high school pretty damn early into the run. And when people talk about those classic high school days, where Flash Thompson was the bully and where it was just all that stuff and him, struggling with that, Peter graduated in issue 28 of Volume 1 of Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. I've talked about this before. I talked about this a little bit in my Sins Past review, but yeah, Peter was only in high school for 28 issues. That's 12, 24, that's less than 3 years, people. And Peter's been around for a very long time now. But okay, there is this assumption that, high school Peter equal good, most interesting time. I've never quite understood it, but, clearly Marvel's into it because we're getting High School Peter in the cinematic universe, and we're getting, Spidey, which is a new spin-off solo Spider-Man title, which is set in continuity, but it's also done in one, High School Tales, which they're trying hard. They're trying, and they're doing fine work, but I'm just bored by it because it's just, nothing's going to happen in it. It's just disposable Spider-Man stories, and that's fine, but I kind of like my Spider-Man to have a bit more personality and a bit more character and to be able to go a bit more interesting places. And hi, Miles! So, yeah, this first issue lays out who Miles is as a character. It lays out his situation, his day-to-day life, his family situation, which also, interesting, is different from Peter and gives him a unique feel because especially now, in the relaunch, he now has both parents alive. And if you don't know, early on during, the initial run of Miles, his mother gets killed. And as a result of Secret Wars, things got rebooted back so that now she's alive again. Now, I presume the plan is not to kill her off again anytime soon. Otherwise, why on earth did you bother bringing her back to life? But we will see. And so this is Miles. I'd say, when he started out in the book, he was probably 12 or 13. Now, it's been a few years. He's clearly now older, but he's probably 16, 15. And it's great. It's a lot of fun. Now, does this book address my biggest concern about the character? No, but I'll get into that in a second. But I will say that the art by Sarah Pichelli, who was also the original artist on Miles and has come back to it, is gorgeous. She is one of the most underrated artists in comics today, and she is showing why in this book. Her cartooning is strong. She has lots, when she needs to do realistic, she could do realistic. When she does, when she gives a panel of Miles doing a humorous memory of a fight with the Shocker, it looks great. When there's time for the action scenes, or in this issue, he fights Blackheart, which if you don't know is the son of Mephisto. Sorry, it's a Spider-Man review, even if only not technically of Peter, and saying the M word is kind of, yeah. Anyways, so he's fighting a big giant demon, basically, and her design, she's completely redesigned Blackheart, and it looks terrific, and it's just, yeah, it really works. The fashion she's given the kids feels true today to what is fashion, at least what little I've seen of it. It ain't like I'm in high school, but it feels authentic at least, and the writing is strong. This is Bendis doing that, doing what he does best, which is a solo character title with a sprawl, of a good supporting cast, and This is the stuff he's been doing since 2000, and he knows this character, and even in a new world and setting, he created him. And I'm all in. I'm all in for Spider-Man, for Miles Morales. Now, I said I had a concern, and my biggest concern is longer term, because, you see, Miles was introduced in the Ultimate Universe when Ultimate Peter Parker apparently died. I say apparently because near the end of Bendis' run, when things were getting all confused and leading into Secret Wars, Peter apparently came back, and it was basically it was really trying to give Mary Jane something of a happy ending, I think, but also it kind of feels pointless since what happened to that character, and it's not like I don't care about the continuity issues, just so we're clear. Calm down. So, yes, and it's very clear we're going to start getting some answers, I suspect, in issue 2. But the point is that Miles was Spider-Man. He wasn't sharing being Spider-Man with Peter. He became Spider-Man in a world that no longer had one, and in a world that was distinct from the larger Marvel Universe, and that gave him room to be his own character. He was Spider-Man, but he wasn't just a copy of Peter Parker. My concern is, look, right now, it's working very well because Peter's not really technically active in New York. And so there's this, technically a gap you can have Miles fill without any trouble. And at the moment, Peter's doing very non-traditional Spider-Man stories, whatever you think of the quality of them. But that's only going to last so long. And what's going to happen eventually when things tilt back around and Peter's back in New York and he's doing the old sad sack, hard luck Parker thing, because you know that's eventually going to happen. You just know it. Will there still be room for Miles then? And my biggest worry is that eventually what happens to so many characters like this when they become when they take on the mask of somebody else, they eventually get subsumed and consumed, and I think that'd be a huge problem and a mistake for Marvel. I think Miles represents something really important. He represents that not all superheroes have to be white guys. I think that is goddamn important. It does matter. Representation matters. And Miles is just a great character in his own right. And it would be a shame on multiple levels. Still, that's the future. Now, does this book make me feel like his presence is completely assured? Honestly, I don't know, because also what happens when eventually, and it will eventually happen, I presume, Brian Michael Bendis leaves the character. I mean, right now, Bendis is still a big deal. He is still very much one of the big dogs of Marvel. You know, Hickman drove things, but Bendis is still, he takes up a lot of room. He's got a lot of weight to throw around, and I suspect he'll be that way until he eventually retires maybe from comics entirely. I don't know if at this point it will ever get a Bendis run on DC. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit too short-sighted. I'm sure there was a time people said that about a Chris Claremont or a John Byrne or even a Stan Lee, and all of those things eventually did come to pass to varying results. I mean, Byrne produced good stuff, but not so much Stan Lee. Anyways, what happens when Bendis is no longer around for whatever reason and he's no longer writing this character? I don't know. And I do worry about that. And in the same way that I wonder what's going to happen to Sam Wilson, which, I mean, there's no... really, it's this point, it's not when does he become the Falcon or somebody else again, it's if. Look, it can happen. These characters can sometimes stick around, and there's one example, there used to be an example of this, and that was DC, where they had a bunch of generational heroes, where they used to have 3 Flashes running around, and, well, I won't say multiple Green Lanterns, because that's kind of tied into one of the versions of the concept, but still, you still had a generational thing, and you could have somebody like Nightwing, who started out as a sidekick, become his own character, and his own hero, and his own man, even while, always keeping the connection. But I think even if that happens with Miles and he eventually becomes another hero, that would lose something valuable in him being Spider-Man. So there's a part of me that wonders if 5 years from now we're not going to see all this reversed and eventually Miles sent off back into a parallel universe somehow and getting spun off again. And maybe that will happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm worrying over nothing and Miles will go over to... Hell, maybe he'll be the one to subsume Peter Parker. It could happen. No, it will never happen. And this is not a knock on Miles. I love Miles, but I seriously doubt that could ever happen. But I guess it could. I'm not sure I'd even want it to, because I don't want Peter going away. I'm not thrilled with what's going on with the book right now, and I'm not thrilled about the aftermath of you-know-what. I don't need to bring it up, but I still like Peter Parker. But no, Peter ain't going anywhere. I guess we'll see, but all of that is a worry for the future, and for now I will say that Spider-Man is off to a great start. I look forward to issue 2, where hopefully we will start to get more answers. But if you have never read a Miles Morales comic before, and you've ever wondered about what makes the character tick, what makes him such a great character, what makes him more than just, a guy in a black and red Spider-Man suit, Read this comic, and I'd be surprised if you aren't convinced. This is a great introduction to the character. It's a great jumping on point. It's just a really fun, classic superhero book in its own right with a terrific last page cliffhanger. One of those patented Bendis cliffhangers, and say what you will about the man, but he knows how to do a cliffhanger, and I suspect you will enjoy it. So, by all means, give it a try. And considering the big love fest I gave to a certain creative team and their run earlier in this episode, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about another book real quick. Going to try and keep this as brief as possible, because we've still got more ground to cover. But yeah, I want to talk to you about Spider-Man Deadpool issue 1 and 2. When I first heard that they were going to do a Spider-Man Deadpool team-up series, and that it was going to be an ongoing, no less, I was kind of like, oh god. Because, I mean, you know, a 4-issue miniseries, yeah, maybe, sure. Though it's not like Spidey and Deadpool haven't met several times in various places. I mean, they were good meetings, but did we world really need an ongoing with these two? And then I heard the creative team. Written by Joe Kelly. Art by Ed McGuinness. In other words, the creative team that first began that seminal run on Deadpool I was kissing up to earlier in the episode. The writer who still stands, in my opinion, as the best fucking writer to ever write Deadpool. And who's a pretty damn good Spider-Man writer too, if it comes to that. A writer I love, and an artist who, you know, I haven't loved everything he's did. There was another, you know, Slash series, cough, Superman, Batman, cough, that I had issues with. To be fair, that wasn't really his art. That was more Loeb. But whatever. These two teaming back up again for Deadpool, even if we're throwing Spider-Man in the mix. No way. I'm not going on board on that. And 2 issues in, it's like coming home again. You really can sometimes. You know, the first issue sets up the premise where we get an absolutely ridiculous team up between Spidey and Deadpool. You know, Deadpool wants he wants to hire Spidey. Because right now, if you don't know, Spidey's, as I alluded to earlier, Peter's current setup is that Spider-Man has been hired by Parker Industries, which is now super successful and international, to serve as a consultant and bodyguard for both Peter in general and the company in general. So it's like I said, poor man's Iron Man. And, well, as it turns out, Deadpool decides he'd rather hire Spidey instead, not realizing that Peter and Spidey are the same, which is very important because by the end of the first issue, it turns out Deadpool wants to kill Peter Parker. And he's decided he's going to have Spider-Man help him, just Spider-Man doesn't know it yet. And what's really great is that part of how he does this is how he convinces Spider-Man to maybe start teaming up with him more. Is Kelly really plays back up the old angle of Deadpool wanting to be a better hero. And Deadpool does mean it. He does want to be a better hero. He just thinks that being a better hero includes killing Peter Parker, because no way a guy with his past and history isn't shady as fuck. And when you actually think about it from Deadpool's perspective, it almost makes sense. Now, there's something you don't say a lot. It's just, and the whole issue, the way he does it, I'm not going to spoil. I'm not going to spoil the big reveal behind this issue because, it's glorious, it's wonderful. Let's just say things aren't necessarily what they seem, and I'll leave it at that. But it's a great first issue that really is, above anything else, is hilarious. It's really funny. And not just in a reference-breaking fourth wall cutaway. It's funny in a Spider-Man gets to play straight man to somebody who's even more of a loudmouth and more crazy than he is. And that, it's always fun when you see Spidey forced into that kind of position. And the way the issue ends is just, it's perfect. And then issue 2, basically by the end of the issue, Spidey is starting to maybe warm up to the idea that maybe he might try and have Deadpool become a better hero. And issue 2 is picking up on that and also adding Miles Morales into the mix as well. And that's all I'm going to say, because the second issue is even better than the first. And part of what I love about Kelly is he's absolutely respecting the current status quo for both Deadpool and Spider-Man. There's all kinds of references, like Deadpool's wife. Yes, Deadpool has a wife. If you don't know, go read a fucking comic book. Deadpool's demonic wife shows up in this issue, in issue 2, and it's made very clear she's still around. And Peter's current thing as head of Parker Industry is definitely referenced. And Miles is set up as, it's Kelly is such a consummate great writer. He takes continuity and he turns it to an advantage. It's not an anchor for him. It's a strength. And the issue continues to be funny, but also both this issue and first issue also are very clear to give us moments to remind us Deadpool may want to be a good guy, but on some level, he's a deranged maniac. And on some level, he can be scary. And it's just, I love it. I love it. He's doing a Deadpool that is consistent with both his take on it, but is also consistent with the current take on it. And it works because it's Deadpool. Because Deadpool is such a crazy, flexible character. You can almost just about justify whatever you do with him. And bringing Miles into the mix briefly is great. And the actual storyline, it's just a great. So far, 2 issues in, as long as this creative team's around, I'm on board. And honestly, nothing against McGinnis. He's a great part of this book, but I'm on it as long as Joe Kelly's on, okay? Joe Kelly just gets both of these characters, and especially Deadpool, and this, if you only read one Deadpool book from Marvel, honestly, as blasphemous as it will sound to some, and not a knock against the current mainline book, which continues to be good, but this is the one to read. This is the one to read. It's the old magic again in a new era, and I love it. I love Joe Kelly on Deadpool, and you should go read, they've got omnibuses and trades of Joe Kelly's entire run, and you should absolutely go buy those. Read this. If you have Marvel Unlimited, go read his Deadpool. You will not be sorry, and also read Spider-Man Deadpool, because 2 issues in, this thing's already shaping up to be something special. I have no idea how many issues this will go. They keep stressing it's an ongoing, but if sales aren't there, and again, sales are okay, but I could see it ending after 6-7 issues. It could go on for 33 issues again. I don't know. I don't care. As long as Joe Kelly's around, I'm on board happily all the way. So, by all means, Spider-Man Deadpool, issues 1 and 2, already out. Go read them. It'll make you happy. I promise. All right. Let us now move away from the world of comics and back into the world of other media, specifically TV shows. Yes, it is time to check back in on everybody's favorite corner of the DC Universe. The only corner of the DC Universe really worth a damn at this point, if we're honest. You know I'm right. The DC TV Cinematic Universe. So, let's talk first about Arrow. And I gotta say, I'm so happy with the way the last couple episodes have played out. If you remember my initial review for the first episode of the season, now, to reset the scene, Arrow had a very, shall we say, rocky third season. Very uneven at best, and by the end it was a mess. It was just not good. They completely blew the Ra's al Ghul storyline, Raj al Ghul, whatever the hell however you pronounce it. It just didn't work. It didn't work because of the actor. It didn't work because of the writing. It didn't work on so many levels. And after what was such a sterling second season, the show was left, I won't say in ruins, but it was definitely left a bit worse for wear. And since then, overall, Season 4 has done a pretty good job picking up the pieces. We're still getting the flashbacks, which I wish they'd stop doing, but at least they feel more relevant. At least we're back on the island, and at least it feels like we're all, all this is going somewhere, and it's all going to eventually come to a head. So at least it doesn't feel as pointless as last year's just endless slog through Hong Kong. But my biggest problem going into Season 4, my biggest problem was the leftovers from Season 3, specifically the character of Malcolm Merlyn, who I felt was a real problem for the show. And I want to be clear, this is nothing on John Barrowman. I love me some John Barrowman, the actor who plays him. Yeah, famous as Captain Jack from Doctor Who and Torchwood. Yeah, talk about a word that has mixed feelings for me. But anyways, I love John Barrowman. If I could get more John Barrowman on my TV is never a bad thing. It's not him. The problem is where they left the character. Because at the end of Season 3, basically, in a fit of just absolute, insane, unbelievable stupidity, Oliver helped make Malcolm Merlyn the new Raj al Ghul, and left him in charge of the League of Assassins. The guy who, murdered thousands of people in a mad plot to rebirth the city. That guy. The guy who had his own daughter, hypnotized his own daughter into murdering one of our... Oh, the idea that Alfred, wow. that Oliver would ever help this son of a bitch into power in anything, much less something as potentially dangerous as the League of Assassins. Just no. The idea that he didn't just beat the living shit out of this guy and stick him on the same magic island where Deathstroke will now forever live. We'll get to that in a second. It just boggled my mind. I could maybe allow the idea that, Merlin escaped and Oliver decided, I won't go after him today, because he helped us and all that, and someday we'll take him down, but not today. I could maybe just about buy that. But the idea that he would leave him in power, especially over Nissa, who was a woman who had proven herself, an interesting, complicated woman, someone who might have actually been able to bring some reform to the League of Assassins, at the very least would be a lot less likely to destroy whole cities in the same way that Malcolm might. It just, no. It made, if I thought about it too long, blood started coming out of my nose, and I'd start, seeing all the colors, and and it just, every time Malcolm showed up in season 4, I was just like, Oliver, for the love of God, put an arrow in this guy, or trank him out and put him on the magic jail island already. But nope. Until finally, in these last 2 episodes, we finally address the issue of Malcolm Merlin in the way that, frankly, we should have addressed it all along. And while I wish we hadn't taken this long to get there, I cannot tell you how happy I am to see it happen. So, yeah, I won't say these last 2 episodes, the return, the second half of season 4 so far has been a lot of fun. It hasn't been perfect, but with all the setup for Legends of Tomorrow out of the way, both Arrow and Flash can finally get down to doing their own business again, and Arrow, at least, is absolutely benefiting from it. We by the end of the episode, Malcolm Merlin is very firmly in the bad guy camp again in a major way, and I'm getting curious how to see that plays out, considering Damien Darhk's reaction to people attacking children and the fact that Oliver saved his daughter, and I really hope we're not just headed towards the thing, spoilers, where Damien just goes after Oliver's son without any hesitation or anything, because I feel like that would kind of not gel with the character we've established, but whatever. Malcolm and Damien, however temporarily teaming up, Malcolm swearing revenge on Oliver feels right. That said, the guy just vowed to ruin your life, Oliver, and he earlier established that he knows your son is, and even if you don't think he would go to Damien Darhk, you would absolutely believe he could threaten your son. Why the fuck did you let him walk away? But fine. One last act of unrelenting stupidity revolving around Malcolm Merlin. I can deal with it because I like where this ended. I like where we've left Nissa. I'm hopeful we'll see more of her. I think she's a fun character. I think the actress plays her well. And I think there's a lot of interesting directions they could take her. And I'm satisfied and I'm excited now that the Damien Darhk thing is going to seemingly be picking back up. And I think, by the way, Calculator is one of my favorite DC villains back from the wonderful Birds of Prey book in the pre-New 52 and going up against Oracle and making, him Felicia's father is inspired, and the way they've introduced him, the way they handled him, and no fucking way have we seen the last of him. Yeah. Unlike Ra's al Ghul, they've nailed the Calculator, and I can't wait to see more of him. I honestly wouldn't mind if he doesn't come back this season. I would love, and that sounds crazy, because I would like to save him for next season. Let's make Calculator the big bad for season 5. That could be awesome. But whatever. Whether we get him more this season or next season, I am a happy man, and I'm very excited for the Damien Darhk to be back, and yeah. That brings us to The Flash. I got really mixed feelings about this. If you don't know, this week's episode of The Flash, we finally went to Earth 2. And I should be overjoyed. I love going to parallel Earths, and I love seeing different takes on familiar characters, and I love seeing what could have been, and I love the whole Art Deco style of Earth 2, and in theory I should be thrilled, and we've got Zoom back in a big way, and I love how, I love their take on Killer Frost. She is just clearly having so much fun playing her, and it's nice to see, however temporarily, the original Firestorm back, and they made a cute Bonnie and Clyde style couple, and it was so awesome seeing an evil Cisco. Reverb. Jeez. Oh, again, all the actors on this show are clearly having so much fun, and why wouldn't they? And yet there was a part of me that absolutely hated this episode. And it all comes down to Barry Barry Allen to, or as I like to call him, the king fuck-ups of all-time fuck-ups. Because, you know, Harrison is right. Harry is right to be pissed off at Barry because they were explicitly there to rescue his daughter. And he's very right that if Zoom finds out that they've teamed up, you know, he's teamed up with them, he'll just kill his daughter. And FYI, all the bad things that happen in this episode happen because Barry is a fuckwad. Because, you know, Joe is only dead because Barry decided to not use his super speed until after alternate Joe got hit in the chest. Gee, Barry, maybe you should have used your super speed a couple minutes faster, Mr. Fastest Man Alive. And just throughout this whole episode, Barry, and to a lesser degree Cisco, have the idiot ball. I mean, Jesus Christ, Barry, we have gone out of our way in the first half to establish that people in this world are not the same people you know and that they may be different, and the first thing you do when you see a guy in handcuffs is you call him Captain, as if you can't figure out what's going on. And Cisco and him both do it again and again. These are smart, self-aware, geeky-aware people, and the fact that they keep being so surprised that people are different in this world just made me want to pull out all my hair, and I don't have that much left to pull out, people. It drove me nuts, and it just left a bad taste in my mouth, and it was really frustrating. And the fact that we wasted time. Look, I want to see Jay Garrick in action. I'm a big old-school Jay Garrick fan, and I want to see Jay Garrick kick some ass. But the half-hearted attempt they did, love of God, people, can you maybe try and focus a bit? I know Barry is the poster child, you know, Bart Allen is supposed to be the poster child for ADD, not Barry, and his show should maybe get a little bit more focus when we're in, you know, the parallel world everybody's been wanting to see. Maybe you could spare us the pointless, meaningless, boring subplot with the pointless, meaningless, boring, random meta villain back in, and nothing came of it. I didn't like this episode. And I thought, I mean, there were parts of it I loved. Anytime we get to see Jesse L. Martin sing is good with me. I mean, that man and his pipes. I'm absolutely down for the chance to sing. And there were moments that I really liked, but boy, did too many characters have the idiot ball. And I mean, it's really frustrating because there were some great moments. I mean, that moment with Barry on the phone with his mother, and you know, Gustin just nailed the acting of it. It was just, he was so good in that scene. And I just, you know, it's just a shame that so many other scenes just didn't work. And the way they used Deadshot as an alternate, I mean, oh yes, we get the joke, he's a bad shot, except I have trouble, you know, I don't want to pick on the show, but when the show isn't doing well, little things that I can normally ignore stand out, like for the fact that apparently this guy is such a bad shot that from 2 feet away with 12 bullets, he can't hit a guy? I'm sorry, if you're that bad a shot, you're not going to make detective and much less be let out into the field. I mean, Jesus. That was just, oh God. Look, I'm still a fan of The Flash. Unlike some people, I wasn't actually bothered by the episodes leading up to this. I like what they're doing with Wally. No, it's not my Wally, for whatever that's worth. But, you know, at least they haven't made him an outright pickpocket or whatever it was, or, you know, a thief like he was, I think. I don't read the New 52, as I understand it, as they introduced Black Wally there. I like what he brings, you know, making him Iris's sister and Joe's long-lost son makes a lot more sense in this show than just making him, you know, a nephew or a cousin, because it plays more directly into the family. I like the actor who's playing Wally. I can't wait to see him be Kid Flash. Yes, he's not my Wally West, but he's still a good character in his own right, and I'm not going to hold that against this show's interpretation of him. Now, I was never going to get my Wally West unless we travel to a parallel world, because the whole point of Wally West is that, you know, in the original Wally West, my Wally was that he was a kid who grew up beside a much older adult. I mean, he was a much younger kid who was a kid sidekick to an adult Barry Allen, who was an older Barry Allen than our Barry, and it was just, that character, you know, unless we did a time jump 10 years into the future, that just wasn't going to happen. So I'm not bothered by that, and I think the episodes building up with, Harry's betrayal, I really liked how they handled that. He did warn Barry, and I like that he's not just, you know, they swerved. It seemed like maybe we were just getting a recreation, just in a slightly different fashion, of last year's Zoom, and nope. I mean, you know, that doesn't mean there weren't stupid things, like, you know, the whole time travel nonsense of Zoom was almost as dumb as a nuclear bomb for the internet. I mean, I'm letting that go, Arrow, because I'm happy overall, and I liked seeing Roy back, and I enjoyed getting a brief cameo from Katana, and they didn't kill her off, even though she's in Suicide Squad. And I'm still getting to that. I'm getting to that. So I'm letting that all go, but really, you don't science well, DC Cinematic TV Universe. And I'm willing to let that go to a degree, but sometimes even my suspension of disbelief has its limits. But fine. Time travel's always nonsense. Fine. Whatever. I'll go with it. If it gets me more what I want. Look, I'm looking forward to part 2. I'm hopeful it can pick up. Hopefully the characters are done with the idiot ball, and if we can all get smooth sailing from here. I suppose now that we've met, my big theory until this episode had been that the Zoom was actually Barry from Earth 2. It would have made a lot of sense. He would literally be the evil twin of Barry. That's clearly not happening anymore. So the question remains, well, I mean, I guess it could still be happening, but they'd really have to work to pull off that twist. I mean, technically, we never saw Earth 2 Barry and Zoom in the same place, but it seems unlikely. So that leaves the question of who Zoom is. I guess my current leading theory now is Barry's father. Because, boy, wouldn't that be a gut punch? Wouldn't it, and it would also be a fun callback to the fact, like in this episode of Flash, he used to be the Flash. So that'd be a fun, a little thing. So I could see Barry's father maybe being it. He's got to be somebody we know. If Zoom isn't a familiar face gone bad, then I don't know why we've played him the way we've played him. But at least Zoom is back, and we didn't get much of him, but what we did get properly reestablished the character as a legitimate fucking threat, that's for sure. As oh my god, this guy is scary. That's the real danger when you have to play Zoom carefully. If you show him too much, he loses the mystique. But if you don't show him enough, we forget about him and he becomes just an empty threat. And I feel like that was one of the few things this episode did really well, is reestablishing Zoom as a threat. So that was good. I haven't talked about Legends of Tomorrow. And that's because I think I'm not going to go into too much detail until I get to watch more of the show. What I will say is, so far, I think we're 4 episodes in, this show ain't perfect. It's a mess, but it's a glorious mess, and I'm loving every second of it, and I am so glad it exists. I could go into real detail, but at this point, I think I'm just going to wait. This is intended to be a complete single-season storyline. We may not get another season, or if we get another season, it will almost certainly be a very different setup. I mean, basically, it sounds like, unless they're setting us up for a big swerve, the current time travel Vandal Savage storyline will be a one-season thing. And so at this point, I think I'm just going to watch the whole season and give a full review once the season is done, because until I see where this is all going, and until I see how it all plays out, and until I see everything, it's a little hard to judge. I can say that in the moment, I'm having fun. There are things that make me groan. There are things that make my eyes, roll. It's definitely been uneven. This week's episode was, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And if this show isn't being batshit crazy, it kind of feels like it's wasting its potential. But there's still enough good stuff, and I'm still certainly fully on board. It's a really fun, ambitious experiment from CW, from Warner Brothers, and I really appreciate that. And it's this show just going fully all in on the potential wonderful insanity that makes comic book fans love superhero comics. And, comics are weird, and isn't that great? And so I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, and hopefully it's going to end well, and I will come back to it as a later date. And we'll talk briefly about Supergirl. Again, I'm actually a bit behind. I've only watched up through episode 5. I've been very busy, and this is a show I actually watch with my family because, like, I've got members of my family who really love Supergirl, and so I've been trying to watch it with them, and so I haven't had as much time to catch up on it. 5 episodes in, I can say what I've seen is good. I'm aware of the big twist. I'm aware of some of the bigger twists. I can't really do a proper review on it, so I think I'm also going to wait. If we don't get caught up, I'm going to get caught up soon enough, but by the time end of the season, I will be caught up and I will do a fuller review. What I will say is, 5 episodes in, there's certainly been bumps, there have certainly been awkward moments. It has not been a perfect. No, I think I'm actually 7 episodes in, not 5. I'm 7 episodes. I'm not caught up. That's the point. Okay, What I will say is, so far, there certainly have been imperfections, but considering they're working on a TV budget, and considering the limitations, and considering all that, they're doing a much better job than I necessarily would have ever predicted. I would have wondered if Supergirl might not have broken, what their ability to do a television superhero show, and they've proven no, they can absolutely do it. As we've gone along, the writing has gotten stronger, the characters are getting more distinct. It's the first season. I will say so far, while it has had its flaws, I would gladly take the first season of Supergirl over the first season of Arrow. I don't know if it's as good as how it compares to the first season of Flash. I'm going to have to wait and see, but I'll take it over the first season of Arrow, and I'll sure as hell take it over the first season of Gotham. As for what I think about Gotham, I'm not watching Gotham anymore, and Gotham go fuck itself. Gotham is awful. Stop watching Gotham. You fools. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it! Stop it. No, really, stop it. Ugh, sorry. Have I made my feelings strong enough? I'm not watching Gotham anymore, and unless somebody is prepared to pay me actual regular money, that is not going to change anytime soon. I think we'll leave Marvel stuff for another day. I don't know. I'm getting tired. It's been an hour and 14 minutes at this point. Cut me some slack. So, overall, the state of the DC Cinematic Universe, DC Television Cinematic Universe, is in a good place, provided the DC Cinematic Film Universe doesn't strangle it in the cradle. Well, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice a number of characters over the last year or so have been killed off, including most recently, Amanda effing Waller. And while I was never particularly in love with their take on Amanda Waller, she's no CC Pounder, but at the very least, just the fact that they would kill off the character so summarily like that was, it wasn't shocking. It was, oh, I see, Suicide Squad movie. And yeah, to that I said earlier, they've made it clear we will never probably see Deathstroke, Mal Bennett as Deathstroke again. Certainly not anytime in the immediate future. Maybe a couple years from now, assuming this is all still around. And it just makes you bang your fucking head. And they've said we won't see him because, apparently there's plans for him in the cinematic universe. He's probably going to make some big appearance in Suicide Squad, and maybe they're going to give him a spin-off movie or something. I have no idea what. And it's just, guys, you've got a fucking Flash movie coming. A Flash movie coming. I mean, are you really going to say you can't? And it's going to be the Barry Allen Flash. It's going to be the Barry Allen Flash. They've made that clear. So, if you're really going to play this stupid game that you used to play, that was why we never got, that's why we never got a proper Nightwing, Nightwing never showed up in Justice League Unlimited. That was why after the first, we never got Joker back again. That was why so many stupid things, so many missed opportunities that could have been in one of the best superhero shows ever. And do not do this again. Have you guys not learned? I think people can accept multiple versions of the same character and not get confused. I think if you have a version of Deathstroke on the big screen and a version of Deathstroke on TV, it's okay. They're not going to not see your stupid movies because of that. They're not going to see your stupid movies because your movies are stupid. Not because there's multiple versions of the characters. Look, if you've been paying attention to reports, the DC film side of things is an utter fucking mess that may be on the verge of collapsing. And that basically, Batman v Superman has to make like $1 billion to be considered a success. And by all accounts, it ain't going to make $1 billion. That they've been doing early test screenings and the reactions are very mixed. That basically, people don't want what Zack Snyder is selling. And what I'm hearing, from a number of both online and from a few people I happen to know, that yes, it sounds very likely that this planned Justice League movie may get quiet. Suicide Squad's obviously happening. Wonder Woman's filming right now, and it's absolutely going forward. But that what was going to be next was the 2-part Justice League movie. And that there's a very good chance that ain't going to happen. And if it does happen, Zack Snyder ain't going to be directing it. And I hope that's true, because Zack Snyder is a poison. He is a parasitic poison. A poisonous parasite, on the back of this whole DC period. People, he doesn't get it. He keeps so trying to say people don't reject, but they do reject his take on it. It's not what people want. And it's, yeah. Fine. Do what you want with the films, DC. But do not cut off your nose to spite its face. Because I tell you, the backlash, if you cancel the Flash TV series because you want to do a Flash movie, And you think people can't fucking handle it? The backlash, I mean, no, you can't. No. I mean, I saw somebody put it this way, that Supergirl has given us a better take on Superman than the entirety of Man of Steel, and he hasn't even appeared on camera technically for more than a couple seconds. But, in a handful of text and flashbacks and references, we've gotten a better Superman than an entire 2.5-hour movie. And I can't say I disagree, and that is what it is. There's a part of me that can't believe DC would actually cancel The Flash over something like this, but then I see what they're already doing now, and I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And that's going to do it for me for now. I think I'm about burnt out now, and so look forward. I've got plans this week, hopefully I've got big plans for Gravity Falls. I may either do... I'm definitely going to be doing a big celebration of Gravity Falls this week, because if you don't know, Monday, sadly, as of this recording, Monday is the series finale of Gravity Falls. And I don't intend to just review the series finale and the series as a whole. This weekend, I will actually... first of all, this weekend, I'm watching... Starting, tomorrow, I'm going to be watching from start to finish the entire series of Gravity Falls over the next 2 days. So I'm ready for the finale. And then I'm going to do a review of the finale and the show as a whole, but I'm also going to do reviews of some of the tie-ins, like the video game that came out over the winter for 3DS, and like a couple of the books that have been released. I'm debating over whether I'm going to do just one big episode celebrating Gravity Falls. I may do a 2-part episode, like one on Monday doing the tie-ins, and then one like on Thursday doing the actual review of the series finale. There's a lot of factors I haven't decided yet, partially on time and all that, but definitely something Gravity Falls related. Unrepentant Geeking this week, that much I can effing promise you. So please look forward to that, and if you enjoyed this, please head on over to unrepentantgeeking.com where you can check out more stuff from me. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please rate and review. That really does help the show get more attention. And if you want to throw some money my way, please consider heading over to patreon.com/unrepentantgeeking where you can see... Well, you can, a couple dollars a month helps me do stuff. $20 a month gets you me to review whatever you want within reason. So there you go. Also, at the end of this month is coming up a big episode of Blistered Reviews, where I'll be taking a look at a number of anime-inspired games, including Digimon, Cyber Sleuth, Project X Zone 2, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, plus a couple of indies things like Firewatch, and the just released visual novel Solstice. So a lot of stuff coming down in the works, a lot more stuff coming. Please look forward to it. Please keep supporting the show. Please keep sharing links and all that. And that's going to do it for me. Until next time, for Unrepentant Geeking and Ramblings, I am Sean Cronenfeld, wishing you all long days and pleasant nights. Till next time, everybody.